Good morning, everyone. This is Rama On Writing coming to you live from a beautiful, sunny Sedona, Arizona. Well, spring is here, everybody. And of course, we've had our daylight savings time, so we'll have a few people that enter into the webinar just about when it ends. And that usually happens for a few weeks. Today, we are with our latest #1 Amazon bestseller, Molly Nelson. She has written a book called Living Happily Ever After. And Molly, introduce yourself. Give us the name of the book, the complete name, and the website address, and tell us why you wrote this book.
Well, the name of the book is Living Happily Ever After, Releasing Wounds, Hurts, and Resentments. My website is livinghappilyeverafter.life. That's a new domain out there. And let's see, what else did you ask me to talk about? Oh, how I did this. Many years ago, I entered a 12-step program because I was overweight. And in that 12-step program, there's the 4th step, which is to do a searching, complete searching moral inventory of this. The big book of Alcoholics Anonymous was written in the 1930s, so we have that kind of language in it. Anyway, there was a whole list of resentments because that's where you start in looking at yourself. What do you resent? And I copied them down, and I thought, as I went through the process, I knew that I was addicted to food. And there were other people out there who didn't have any addictions, but they were crazy as I was. So I thought, this needs to get out to the normies, as we call them. Those are the folks that don't have addictions or aren't related to somebody with an addiction. So it's been on my computer since about 1980. And I knew it had to be written. So I started writing it, but eventually, after attending Tom's workshop or his lecture on You Can Write a Book in a Weekend, I signed up, and what is a year and a half, 2 years later, it's out there, a #1 bestseller. I can hardly believe that.
Molly, what is the message that you hope the readers get from your book? If there was one message, what would it be?
It would be get out of the negative thinking and live a joyful life.
And in your book, you actually have exercises that have been designed to do just that. Is that correct?
Oh, yes. I've got... this is a workbook, and we have a process. Well, I don't know if you can read, and a release. And the process, it says, the resentment. What are the circumstances or situation? And how does it affect the effects of your self-esteem, your security, your personal relationships, sex, ambition? Then what was my part in it? Where was I at fault? And then what feelings do I have about this? Anger, fear, sad, shame, so on. There's a whole list of those. And then negative characteristics. These are things that are inside us. Fear, anger, pride, they're very much related to our feelings. And then which fear are you operating from? Loss of control, rejection, inadequacy, failure, won't get something I want or will lose something I have. Then on the release side, it says, I see that so-and-so did the best they could given the place that they were in and describe their point of view. Then list the good characteristics of this person or institution. Then I freely and fully forgive so-and-so to the best of my ability. I cut them loose and set them free. Now I am free. I bless and wish good for them. And the reason I put that in is that what you want for another person, you get for yourself. And then I apologize for the pain I caused that person. And then the gift or the lesson that I learned was, and then do a visualization of how you are without that resentment. And then an affirmation of how you will be. Because I noticed that resentments, you go through this process, but they come back. Oh, yes. So you have to have something to put in place of that. And then what I will do the next time this happens, so that you're prepared and you figured out the next time so-and-so yells at you, what are you going to do? So that's, hey, I just finished the book. What, 5 minutes? It's a very short book. And I said to the reader that I've written half the book, and you have to write the other half.
Very good, Molly. Just so that everyone understands what Molly was reading from, I know the makeup of this book very intimately. We struggled with, getting handouts available so that someone can actually pull pages out of the book without destroying, the book essentially. And that was the last challenge that we had. We even had little cut lines on it for a time, but they were outside of the borders that Create Space had. And so Molly and I were trying to figure out how we could get it uploaded. And Molly says, well, why don't you just get rid of those cut lines? And boy, that saved us a whole round of corrections and a lot of time. So we got, I think, at least three of the release and troubleshooting templates in there for people to pull out. And then she also has some samples of people that she's worked with that, have filled those out. Molly, I've got a couple of other questions. What was the most surprising thing that you learned by writing this book?
Besides going through the process myself, which I've recently done again, the most surprising thing is how books get published. When somebody says that they want to write a book, I say, take a course in self-publishing so that you know the vocabulary at least. You know what they're talking about. And then I said, the other thing is what I would have liked is somebody to face-to-face talk to me as I was finishing chapters so that I could read them and get immediate feedback from a person. So I would have joined a writer's group. But that's how I would have done it if I had known what the path was. I would have done this.
Sounds good. It sounds like getting that immediate feedback would have certainly been insightful for a book like yours. Molly, You may not have an answer for this one, but I have to ask. What got left out of this book? If you, if you did it all again, would you change something? Would you add something, or what do you feel was left out?
Yes, there are two things. There is a beautiful poem that at the time I didn't think I had the time to get the copyright. And in that, it talks about the wound window left open from our childhood. These zingers that we get in our adult life can go back through a wound window left open from our childhood. I'd like to have included that whole poem. And I've asked Greg I think I've asked Greg if I could have a tab on my website for things I left out of the book. And I would then get from Macmillan, the permission to put that poem up. It's a gorgeous poem. And the other thing I would have added was I chose. The words I chose, and I would have put it in the part about what was my part in it. I would have had a something I chose. For instance, in my story, I resented my husband because he wanted a divorce. I'd gotten terribly fat and depressed, and that's in the book. I went through the process using that example. And what would have been insightful for me to have said is, I chose to overeat. And for alcoholics, I chose to drink, so that we take responsibility for our actions. And we get away from, well, my mother made me finish everything on my plate, and that's why I overeat. The fact that this is 50 years later, and I'm still overeating, I choose to do that. So again, it's that giving self-responsibility.
Thank you for sharing that, Molly. I think that that's critical, that we take responsibility for all our actions and, do something as a result of that. Molly, one more question before I close down the interview part and move to the Q&A. What advice do you have for other authors who are looking to write self-help type books, or even other books? What kind of advice would you give them for going through the publishing timeline or writing the book?
If they do a process, to run it by several people so that they can find the glitches in it and what is not clear. It was perfectly clear to me what I was doing until I got some feedback and needed to change things a little bit.
Sounds good, Molly. Thank you for the interview. Once more, this is Molly Nelson. Her book is called Living Happily Ever After, and her website is www.livinghappilyeverafter.life. Thank you, Molly. I'm going to close down this computer with the interview and then move to another one, so give me a second.
Okay.